Okay, the next thing on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
A motion to approve the agenda as written. Second by trustee Maynard. Any further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is the approval of minutes of the public hearing, regular council of July 13th, regular council member, then the regular council meeting of July 13th, the special meeting of the governing body of July 20th, the special meeting of the governing body of July 27th, and the work session of the governing body and P&Z for July 29th. We can do this in one motion, or we can separate them out. If there's, or we can pull just an individual out. It is entirely up to y'all.
I make a motion, we just accept them all in one motion.
Okay, we have a motion on the table to accept them all in one motion by trustee Maynard. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by trustee Mitchell. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Now, number 5, we're moving fast here. Announcements, discussion. We have a status report on pickleball in Cloudcroft. Mr. Clark, you may have the floor.
Thank you. I'm going to pass out a point paper I'll talk to here. Enough for everybody on the council. If you would grab one and pass it along there. I'll try to keep this short to 10 minutes unless you have an hour's worth of questions. And I'll stay here as long as you'd like.
I like 10 minutes.
Okay.
No offense to pickleball.
So my name is Kevin Tharp. We've owned a property just outside the village for about 20 years. We love the village of Cloudcroft. My wife used to have a retail store on Grove Street Exchange for 3 years. And we spend half our time here, half our time in Tucson, Arizona. I teach pickleball and give clinics both here and in Tucson. In Tucson, we have a membership at our small retirement community of 800 members that play pickleball. So what is the sport of pickleball? Have any of you seen us playing out on the courts?
I think I did Saturday morning.
Yes.
All right, well, I'll show you what it looks like. This is a paddle. It's a ball, kind of plastic with holes in it. Okay, it's lightweight. It's a portable net we use on the Zenith courts. So it's played, the court is about quarter the size of a regular tennis court, so you don't have to move as much. It's very fast paced, and you play with 2 people or 4 people. Portable net. It is the fastest growing sport among all ages in the United States. So I guess my question would, why should Cloudcroft be interested in the fact we're playing pickleball? Well, it brings revenues to the city, brings tourists, it promotes school participation. The fastest growing group among all ages is K through 12. And it's a social gathering place for the village and other people that would like to participate. Currently, there are 2 pickleball courts that are striped on the tennis courts in the village. So they're co-striped. So the courts are used for tennis, pickleball, and basketball. We set up our nets when we play, we pull them down when we're done. We're talking because we would like a future investment in the improvement of the courts in the village, not only for pickleball, but for tennis and basketball. If you've ever walked out there lately on those courts, especially after rain, you'll notice a lot of low spots where water gathers. Those can be a safety hazard. They impact the play of all of those sports. If you happen to step on them, edge is deteriorating, and an investment would go a long way to not only improve those for the school kids, but for us also, and also to encourage tourists to come up to use pickleball courts. Pickleball is exploding across the United States. We had a clinic in July with 17 new players. We have one this coming Saturday, and we typically have 15 to 20 people that come out every Tuesday and Thursday morning. That's growing by leaps and bounds, so you can imagine 2 courts, which will accommodate 4 players each. People have to wait to play. Why is it the fastest growing sport in the United States? Well, because players play it from ages 6 to 90. It can be played socially or competitively. The United States Pickleball Association is the governing body of the United States, and they control all the tournaments and the play, just like the PGA controls golf. I happen to be a member of the USAPA, and what happens is on their website, there's a little icon that said Places to Play in America. If you click that and type in any city, it'll give you the closest courts and the contact point. I am that contact for Cloudcroft. I get calls all during the year, including when I'm in Tucson, and they ask me, is there play in Cloudcroft? Where is it? Can we come play? Therefore, people plan their vacations and their times up in the mountains to come play pickleball. Ruidoso, which is a sister community, has 8 courts, 4 permanent, 4 temporary. They're part of the White Mountain Tennis Club. They sponsor 2 tournaments a year with those 8 courts, and they average 200 players a tournament. Each person that plays stays there on an average of 2 nights with his family or by himself. So they pour about $40,000 to $50,000 of revenue into the community just from those 2 tournaments. That would be available if we had better facilities in Cloudcroft. I also know the #1 player in the world in the senior tour, over 55. He's promised to come give clinics in Cloudcroft if we can have improved courts. He's met me in Tucson. We've given clinics there to our folks. The U.S. tournaments now are broadcast on ESPN, on CBS. In fact, there's all kind of pickleball magazines springing up. There's a new one called In Pickleball, I referred to on here, and it's a lifestyle magazine. It's co-edited by the editor of O Magazine for Oprah, and the second editor does skiing, mountain biking, climbing, and tennis sports. They've combined with this for a new magazine. They expect 500,000 subscribers within the next 2 years. For the known places to play in the United States, by the end of 2020, there were 8,735 locations you could play in the United States. 67 new locations per month. Right now, there are between 5 million and 6 million pickleball players in the United States, expected to grow to 20 million in the next 5 years, soon to be an Olympic sport. So it's exploding all over the United States. I think the most important thing for me to relay to you is, in addition to improvements to the village and the kids and the tourists, is that realtors, RV parks, bed and breakfast owners, VRBOs, and Airbnbs, renters, builders, resorts, public parks, they all recognize the benefit of pickleball, and so they're converting a lot of tennis courts to pickleball courts. I don't know if you've ever been out and seen the tennis courts during the summer. You might have 2 players, 3 players. We have 15 or 20 twice a week. In fact, there's a t-shirt going around the United States that says, "Pickleball, make tennis courts great again." Okay, that's kind of the slogan. So the #1 draw for realtors on the 55 plus retirees is pickleball courts. Do you have courts? Are they close by? People plan their vacations to go to courts. They plan their vacations to come up here. I recently had calls from local RV park, from a group of 4 motorcycle riders who detoured their trip and came through Cloudcroft to stay for 2 days to play pickleball. We've had people from all over the East Coast, and all of them said they're planning to return again. So an investment and a thought about investment in the future would really benefit the community. My question is, the tennis courts, are they owned by the village or the school?
The village.
Okay. So perhaps even there could be a co-investment by the school budget and the village budget. I've offered and will offer again this year to meet with the athletic director of the school, put on free clinics to kids, provide paddles and balls, okay, to teach them how to do that. And I can guarantee you that many of them will be playing pickleball during the summer if they know how to play. The chamber has agreed to keep one of our portable nets so people can check that out if they're up here. I'll announce that on the United States Pickleball Association website. So any questions I can answer.
What do you have in mind as far as improving the courts?
Well, there's several options. I've spoken to DML, which is the largest court construction company in New Mexico. 90% of their business used to be building tennis courts. 90% of their business now is building pickleball courts or resurfacing courts. So if you are familiar with the tennis courts, there's 2 pods with 2 tennis courts in each one. Both of those pods are surrounded by wire and barriers. So typically that area would hold 2 courts and it would hold 8 pickleball courts if it was resurfaced using the same surface that it has, which is a laminate. If you resurfaced it, that would last about 8 to 10 years. If you chose to go to tearing that old surface out and putting in concrete, that would last for a lifetime. Estimated cost to resurface one of those pods, 2 courts, 8 pickleball courts, complete restriping, was about $38,000 to do that. If you put in permanent courts in one of those pods, $80,000 to $100,000 would last a lifetime. Both court surfaces are used in the United States. So sometimes just walk around those courts, look at the edges, they're peeling and cracking, there's cracks down the middle, there's dips in there. So again, I'm selfish because we could use it for pickleball, but it would be good for tennis and basketball also. So that's kind of what we would have in mind for, on the low side, just resurfacing of one of those 2 pods, which would give you 2 brand new tennis courts, and it would give you 8 pickleball courts. We would supply portable nets, we would supply all the balls, we would supply all the balls. And then I would teach. I've taught for 3 years up here, had a clinic in July, have another clinic on this Saturday, and I have people calling me for instructional clinics also, existing players that want to get there. Got a few of our players here, Jerry, Lynn, Mark in the back here. They've been coming. Mark's a fairly new player. Jerry owns the property up here. I believe it's an Airbnb, is that right?
No, it's a VRBO.
Yeah.
And I have pickleball players coming up here this summer for that reason. Also, my community has 1,200 pickleball players. And they go to, right now, they're going to Ruidoso and they're going to Dillon, Colorado to play tournaments. So I think this community could benefit a lot by having our own pickleball courts.
Any other questions?
Jewel?
On them tennis courts, before COVID hit, we had already had a person looking at them from Roswell, Acme Sports Center. They did the track out here for the high school and all that.
Yes.
And the best kind of concrete pad you'd have to have up here would be a post-tension concrete system because of the weather conditions we are up here.
Yes.
I mean, you can do concrete, but you want them to last for a lifetime,
Yeah.
you're gonna have to do the post-tension concrete. That's gonna cost you roughly about $600,000.
So there's all varieties. DML said they'd be happy to come down and give other firm estimates if they were interested. Surprisingly, when the country was locked up for the last year and a half, pickleball has been increasing by 20 to 40% per year, including during the COVID stage. People got outside, it's fresh air, you're socially distanced, you're more than 6 feet apart when you're playing. So it's good during the pandemic.
Okay, is there anything special on the concrete, or is it just a good, flat, solid surface is what you're...
Yeah, it's good, flat, and solid, and it will never wear out. A lot of the courts in parks and schools are already concrete. In fact, there's a lot of people that are striping wooden courts in schools. Ruidoso was invited by the Boys and Girls Club, who own an old junior high school that was gifted to them. They invited the pickleball community in, who striped the indoor courts. They used them during the winter. And then the Boys and Girls Club will receive $5 every time somebody plays per person. So it's a source of revenue for them. It's a source indoor courts. You could do indoor basketball courts here, and the kids would have something to do in the winter also with that. But again, I'd be happy to teach that free of charge, provide the equipment to learn on.
Okay.
Okay?
Well, thank you very much for your presentation.
Beth, thank you very much.
And we almost held it to 10 minutes. Let's move on. The next one is the mayor's report. And this one is great. We want to congratulate Tony Corbacera. Unfortunately, he's not here tonight. He is the Large System Water Operator of the Year by the New Mexico Rural Water Association. That's pretty impressive, I think, especially with all the challenges that we have with water and everything that's going on. So is there anything else to add on that one, Barbara? Or is it just, Jubal, do you know anything else about that award?
No,
Okay.
didn't even receive it.
Scott
I
might.
don't know who nominated him, but.
Scott, do you know anything else about that award?
Yeah, it's through the state. I was actually the one that nominated him for it because I believe he's doing a really excellent job and with water now working with me. And he deserves it. Yeah, they break it into different categories, the size of water systems.
Okay.
And ours is considered a large system for the rural water. And so, yeah. Well, I don't know how many systems are in the large water system category, but anyway.
It's quite an honor.
Yeah,
for
that's
sure.
good.
Okay, the next thing on the report is the reappointment of Eric Worshing as Fire Chief and Jubal Hall as the Deputy Fire Chief, and the appointment of Eric Worshing as the Emergency Manager. On this one, this came in Friday, so I have nothing, really no knowledge about it. I've got a lot of questions on there, nothing against Eric, I don't have enough information to reappoint him tonight. So we are going to move on to the ski report and license. The Adams here,
No, they
okay,
did give you a written.
they did give us a written report.
Yes. They're cleaning up muck from the rain.
There is a lot of muck. Is there any questions over these reports that we might? Going up? Everybody good? All right. Cloudcroft water stabilization. Deputy Scott, is that you?
Yes, that is you, Scott.
What's it about? I don't even know.
You just basically need to, Tony was giving us a report on how the wells and springs were doing.
Oh, it's not, yeah, I've got that.
Yeah, that,
Okay, I didn't know.
The other day,
He did,
we just
he
put
called me
fancy
at
words
at
to
10
it.
o'clock last night and asked me to be here. What I have on that is, right now, he was saying today that on the report that he gave you guys, it's showing 80.4 gallons a minute on the springs. Right now, it's at 55. Right now, this time of year, the springs vary a lot with the different rains, and then we get dry days, so they settle down and they pick up again, so that's real normal, but we're doing really well. He's got all the wells back on auto, where we were having to run them like 24 hours a day before, or maybe giving them a little break here and there, but he's got them on auto, so they're getting a lot better breaks. The well levels are up. Well, you can see there, a lot of them are up 32 feet, 9 feet, 2.5 feet. So things are looking up
good deal.
for now, anyway.
Well, nobody's watering their lawns right now.
Yeah, thankfully. Hopefully we'll have a good winter. That's what we need, more days. But for now, we're doing pretty well.
Does anybody have any water questions for Scott?
Are we gonna, we're fixing to still move into our report?
Yes, we are moving into the reports. So judicial, police, library, wells and springs, water usage, production, EMS, fire, maintenance, projects, DRT, lodgers tax, and check registers. And we'll let y'all move on any direction you want to with this.
I'll just make a comment on our system total report. Our total loss is down to about 20%. That's still a lot of water, but it's less than we have historically done. So I think some way or another we're making progress on that. I appreciate all the hard effort that I know goes into it. And the other part of your system's total is where we show usage and then percent of sales. we still have the last two categories of less than 2,000 gallons per month. They represent 13% of usage, but about 50% of income. So it's that lower end that really pays half the bills of this village. That's people that aren't here, they have their meter shows zero usage, are ones that use less than 2,000 gallons a month. So it's always good to understand, where does the water go? Where does our money come from? Those are the water department. It's called an enterprise fund for Cloudcroft. It's one of the few areas we get to make a profit in. It helps them pay bills for other necessities in the community. So it's a good thing just to, I keep an eye on it, and have for a long time. So.
I've got a question. Do the people that use, say, 1 million gallons a month, do they get a break on their bill? Or do they pay the same per gallon usage fee that I might get charged?
Who knows the billing the best? Jamie or
So
Barbara?
basically, 0 to 4,000 is our normal fee for water, and then it goes up in increments after you go past that 4,000. I can get you that information if you'd like.
So it gets less and less as you use more and more?
Yes.
Does that make sense? I don't.
No,
when
it
there's
doesn't.
a water shortage?
The other way around.
It gets
The more water they use, the more expensive it is.
Okay,
Yeah, it's a tier system.
Okay.
Most municipalities use it.
so it doesn't get less than per gallon?
No,
Okay.
unless you get bulk water, but that has not been refined, I believe.
Who gets bulk water?
The bulk water, that would be like the ski area will get, and it's limited. And then Bats Gravel Pit will get some, but this is water that we cannot put into our system at this time, because we don't have the proper filtration online to do that. And then we do have, there's the out-of-town water that comes in, and there is a different rate for that kind of bulk water, where it's potable water, you can bring it to your house. And I don't know that rate offhand.
Comes from Mayhill or?
A lot of them are from like Lost Lodge, brings in water trucks, you know, but they pay, I think they pay the same as we do per gallon.
16 Springs.
There's some from 16 Springs, I know there's one from Bug Scuffle, which just that drive scared me, especially with water. There's not many of them, but that is one of the water users that on our system. We did shut down RVs. They used to fill up at the chamber, and because of the restrictions, we had to limit that.
And whatever became of the stage 3 redefining, there was going to be a redefinition of the stage 3 water restriction.
The stage 3 is in place, and it is what it is. We're redoing the ordinances,
The whole ordinance.
and that one is in process.
Okay. I would actually like to volunteer to be on that too.
Okay, we can get you in there. All right, any other thing on the reports?
Yes, Cloudcroft Fire Department says the biennial election was, and Eric and Jubal were re-elected.
Yes.
They haven't been re-elected. You said
They've been-
No, they have been reelected. They have not been confirmed by the mayor,
Oh, okay.
and I'm not sure exactly how that works.
Okay.
And that is the reason I'm not doing it right now,
Okay.
because and I'm gonna go on the record here, we had the co-op annual meeting this week. I'm largely responsible for setting that one up, and so this has been a crazy week for me. And this one came in on, I believe you brought it in Friday, is that correct, Eric?
Yes, sir.
I don't know when their meeting was, but I just need to find out what their ordinances are, what their procedures are, you know, what does it take to make a quorum, how many's on a quorum, just go through some of these details.
Okay.
So it's nothing, I'm not shunning anybody, I'm just busy.
I'll just make sure that the report.
But the report is, as far as I know, the report is accurate.
As far as the fire department, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I had a question on our projects. on a road project for Maple, Blanca Vista, and Woodlands. The note in here says this project will be funded by money received from the governor's capital outlay. Does that have to wait on the next legislative session, or is this something that's already been in and it might be awarded?
I think that's what that.
Okay, so the last legislative session, we were awarded 2 grants. We were awarded a grant to purchase a land acquisition grant to hopefully purchase the property that the wastewater treatment plant is on. That came from the legislators' capital outlay budget, and then I had applied for monies from the governor's capital outlay budget, and that money is the $94,000, and it's designated to fix those roads. So as soon as the grant agreement comes from the Department of Finance Administration and is fully executed, then we can go out and plan to do some work on those roads.
Okay, so that's what I need to know.
Yeah, so those are actually funded, they're already funded, waiting for the grant agreements to be fully executed.
That was Maple and Woodlands
And Blanca Vista,
Blanca Vista?
yes ma'am.
94,000 will not go very far though.
I had applied for, I believe, 500,000
Yeah.
and received 90. As an example of how far that money goes, the project we're doing over here on Swallow is approximately over $250,000 project for just that stretch of road. So we'll do what we can with $94,000. It'd probably be spot work.
Are you working through the village then on different roads? Is that, I was just wondering how you came upon picking these streets. I mean, are those the main?
I had taken this, I had taken a tour of the village, if you will, with an engineering firm that we're working on for road work.
Okay.
And we took a drive one day and we were looking at areas that had suffered some deterioration, if you will, from work that was done before. Unfortunately, whenever you apply for these grants, you have to be specific as to where you want to do some work. So, in all honesty, I apologize, there were other areas that do need work, but when you go before the legislature, they want to be very specific, if they award you money, what that money is going to be used for. So that's how those 3 areas came about, is a drive with the engineers and seeing some infrastructure that we had put in place before that was starting to deteriorate and that we didn't want to lose it all that we had on there. I do believe our Public Works Department is working on a plan for some regular road maintenance and rehabilitation that we can do on our own as a village.
And Barbara, let me ask you a question. What, other than these grants, what other sources of funding do we have for road repair and maintenance?
You have gasoline tax and that's it, and that equates to about $32,000 a year on our gasoline tax. And then I'm going to start directing the additional $5 fee that we're collecting on MBD. I will direct that on a quarterly basis, where you're used to coming into our MBD and paying $5 for a transaction. We just passed an ordinance. We're now charging $10 per transaction. I'm going to take that $5 and split it off and put it into municipal streets so that we can hopefully start driving up some of that revenue, so that our crews can help maintain that. She did do $320 today.
There you go. I have one more question, Jenny. We're working on looks like a new zoning map.
Yes.
Is that in progress, or where?
Yes, sir. The map that used to be on the wall for many years up here was not updated, had gotten torn in half during during remodeling, whatever, and got lost, whatever. So I had the county create another one, and it's about 36 by 36. I have it. I am going through each lot going through the zoning history that was put in place in 1997, putting those zones by color on the map for each lot. After that is done, then I will be researching all rezones that have been done since 1997, putting those on there. I will create a legend with the colors of the different zones. And then the Forest Service will help me, it will be able to blow that up even larger for us to put on the wall on here. Now, I do not have it on a computer yet where I can go in and update it. Right now, I only have where I'm just updating it by hand. But yeah, so out of the map 36 by 36, I have about this much done. So I tried to set aside 1 day a week to work on nothing but that map. But there's a lot of old history, updates that were never put on the map that we had, never put on, well, just not put on the map or in the zoning book. And the Planning and Zoning Committee has tasked me with, they would like to see a property profile on each piece of property in the village, meaning that each lot has a history, if you will, of what the zone started out. If it was ever rezoned, if there were any variances, any easement issues, those kind of things. So it's a very big project, but kind of similar to our customer service water files on an address. The girls can go in there and see everyone who has put in an application to rent or buy, or just a history of the utility part, and then I'm creating a history of the zoning part.
Sounds good, I look forward to that.
Does anybody else have any questions over the reports? Did you have any more to add on the projects? Are you good?
Not any more than what is already on the sheet.
Okay. On planning and zoning, you had a meeting about the cannabis. Do we have their recommendations on what we need to add to the ordinance on that part? Or is that something that's still in progress?
Still in progress. Trustee Maynard was at that meeting. There was just brief conversation.
Again, it was a workshop, so a lot of discussion, and I think what we're ready for is to schedule then a meeting to go over those suggestions and decide them. We got a copy of a Red River ordinance that they've worked through on this topic. And I think, again, another mountain town similar to ours, and so it's another set of examples on how we're going to deal with the small amount of control they gave us in the act. So I think if we could set a meeting for, we've got to have a meeting so we can vote. These workshops are great. We all talk about the same stuff in a loop, and then we get back to where these are the 4 or 5 items we can work on. And I think we need to put them up one at a time in a meeting for a vote, what we want to do.
Okay.
And Jeff, I forwarded you a copy of the ordinance that Red River put in place for you to take a look at when you can.
I got it.
Yes, sir. I did reach out to Rio Doso. They have not moved forward in any way. They're waiting to see what other municipalities are doing. I reached out to Angel Fire, but I have not received any information back from them.
Was that just a limited number of things you could do?
And that's what, when we reviewed the Red River ordinance, they came up with the same basic list we had. There's a distance, zoning, the structures that you're concerned about, and then which one of your zones are you going to allow which activity in? And that's about all the state gave us to work with. So it wasn't a very long list, but.
Yeah, and the fees. Chief?
Did y'all get the stuff from Municipal League for the annual meeting? I guess the Attorney General is going to talk in that cannabis bill. He's made some rulings on that act, and it may change or may not, but on the law enforcement committee, they told us he was gonna be there. There were some minor changes that he looked at from the constitutional standpoint that he was gonna tweak. So there may be some more information coming out the end of the month.
No, they didn't send that to me, just the fact that we had the cannabis breakout.
We're going to that conference, but I didn't see any.
There's a cannabis breakout, but it didn't say that
Yeah, it
on
didn't give us-
ours,
it
it
didn't
didn't
give us
say
the
the Attorney
changes yet.
General, yeah.
Right, there's no list, they just said he's gonna be there to discuss some of the issues they've already seen come up because of it.
Well, see, in the Red River ordinance, Kevin, what they did is they put kind of a catch-all at the back to where, like any part of their ordinance that's in conflict, the rest of it remains in force. And so it's a document that can be amended because this is a new industry. And the regulations are evolving through different departments. The thing is, if we don't have something in place, then our town's not protected locally. And so it would be, that Red River already has one up and on the books. I'm impressed. These guys got with it. So that's what we're trying to do, is do the best we can, and we need to amend it later, particularly if there's different legal interpretations, then we would at least be ready with our document that can be amended. Instead of sitting here and just saying, I don't know, that's not a good answer, so.
Anybody else on reports?
Do we set a meeting
I don't know. When would be a good work, or a good meeting?
or 3 days from now?
You love me.
We love meetings.
If
19th to 20th, I'm out of town.
we've got Red Rivers, we have the recommendations from planning and zoning, is that right? It came out of the planning and zoning meeting, not our workshop.
There's some recommendations that have been drafted between Chair Tom Blessum and Trustee Maynard being a member of that committee that he was appointed to. So there is some bullet points, if you will, that they have drafted and have worked on together.
Okay.
So
And then
yes,
we-
there is some information from planning and zoning.
And we have some recommendations from the work session that we had with all of it,
Yes.
as far as what to define.
Sorry, I'm trying to check my calendar.
In our notes, we'd asked Jeff for a clarification on how do we define
A
school or daycare center? And then, because it's not defined in the Cannabis Act,
That did not make it to,
and so
Attorney Rose.
we need his input on that, but I mean, he can do that in an open meeting also. To me, if we get the instructions to the attorney to draft the ordinance based on these things we understand, then Jeff takes it, works it, and comes back to us for approval.
Right.
And so it's not, we're not gonna write the ordinance, we're gonna give him, here's what we want done, and then he knows how to word it so that we stay in balance on it.
That's where I thought we were at, and I thought we were waiting for planning and zoning to give us their part of it.
They don't want to write.
No, not right,
They'll-
their
they'll be
suggestions
consultants
on
on it, yeah.
it to give to Jeff. That's the reason we haven't given you anything.
I could get those
Okay.
suggestions to Jeff by tomorrow if I get hold of them together.
Okay. And I'll be around tomorrow. I should be.
Could we do something the week of the 23rd?
How's that feel?
it'll have to be in the definitely in the evening. I have, clerk training that entire week.
But you-
I mean, they usually end by 4:30, so.
You do 24th, keep it on a Tuesday,
Do the 24th, try to start at 5? Can work, can we do that?
5 o'clock, 24th?
And just that one topic, and then I really think if particularly if each of us have read it, we've got our different suggestions. We bring it like bullet points, it's okay, here's the topic, what are we gonna do on this one, and then this one. Instead of trying to make it the great big round table discussion, we could probably nail it down enough to give it to Jeff, and then he doesn't come back to us and say, well, you can't do that, or you can. And that's one way to get it started.
That works for me. You good with that, George?
24th at 5.
Okay. check registers. Everybody good? Can I enter a motion?
I'll move to accept.
I have a motion to accept the reports by trustee Teeman. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by trustee Mitchell. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Unfinished business. The proposed amendment to ordinance 5-1-9, prohibited activities, vicious animals, and the publication of proposed and adopted ordinance by title and general subject matter. No, we have published that, correct?
No,
We have not published that. So we need to have Jeff publish this one.
this is for your review to determine whether or not you'd like us to publish.
Kevin, did you, do you feel this is enforceable as written?
Yes, and we also, yesterday, Judge Lee and a lady from the Judges Association, she came down, she was talking to the judge and Danielle about court in general. We specifically talked about that ordinance and both seem to think that we're good to go on it. Their advice is you always be careful when you talk about taking somebody's dog away, but the ordinance itself is pretty good. Just follow it.
And that was our problem with it before the rewrite? Was that you didn't
It
tell
was
us-
real vague as to when you could and when you couldn't, and that was the main thing we needed cleaned up, the specifics of when you can take that dog.
Because law enforcement is a tough spot if the ordinance is written in a manner where they really can't enforce it. Doesn't do anybody good.
And Attorney Rose, let me just clarify that, and make sure I understand. If they vote tonight, that's to publish
Notice of proposed ordinance.
notice of proposed, and then we
Yes.
can go ahead and do the
Let's say
adoption
it,
right
yeah.
after without a second vote.
Yeah, we have to adopt it.
Okay,
It's been published.
I would like a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept this ordinance. Adopt the ordinance of 392, 6-1-2-A as written. Wait.
No, that's the wrong one.
Actually, you're not,
5-1-.
actually, you're not adopting, you're just adopting the concept of publishing it as a proposed ordinance. By title and general subject. You can't adopt it until it's been published 2 weeks, at least 2 weeks before the meeting.
So our motion should be to proceed.
Okay, we have a motion on the table to proceed to publish. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by trustee Maynard. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Rhodes, would you please publish that one?
I will do it.
The next is adoption of ordinance 392-6-1-2A, the speeding fines in school zones. So this would be to publish too, wouldn't it?
no, this has been
This has been
published
published.
as of 7:15.
There's 2 publications. First is notice of proposed ordinance. Then you adopt, and it has to be proposed, it has to be published as an adopted ordinance.
Okay, now, that was my question. You had directed me to put them on as to publish for proposed, and as long as they took the vote, they could propose it, and then the vote, and also vote on the adoption at the same meeting. So I don't have to put this on the next meeting for adoption, correct?
If the notice of proposed ordinance that I sent up to you was published,
On 7:15.
that's more than
Then we're
15,
adopting it tonight.
we can adopt it, and we have to do that by roll call.
Right, but I'm
Okay.
talking about the other one with the vicious animal.
No, if you didn't
I'm
publish,
gonna, I did not publish. They're telling me to publish now, so I'm going to publish.
correct,
It'll need to go on the next meeting to
Correct.
adopt.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
That's-
I'll amend it, because I probably set the notice up for adoption on both of them tonight, so
Okay,
I'll change the dates on it.
okay.
On this, the doubling of fines, My only question was, in our minutes, we had a little bit of discussion on, we were gonna do additional signage, where we made sure anyone passing through town knew they were in a zone, the fines were to be doubled. I I may have misread it, but I didn't see where this has anything about signage in it.
Doesn't have, that's not something that you would put into the ordinance anyway.
Okay,
You need to make the signage, basically, to make it applicable. You know,
can't be a secret.
school zones, for example, are required to have a beginning and an end.
Mhm.
If you just have a beginning, and they don't have a sign in the school zone, you don't have a school zone.
Did we clarify, like we have that?
And you can't do the signs anyway. I mean, you've got to work with the state highway department.
Request them from the state.
Yeah.
Okay.
And signage is important because, for example, in a hazard zone coming up here, it's only speeding that is done. Only speeding. And this doesn't do that. This, passing in a school zone, that's not speeding. We're trying to cover other stuff. What do they call this?
Safety corridor.
Safety corridor, right. Yeah, you look at the sign down there, it says speeding fines double. So if you get a ticket for a seatbelt, it's just normal.
Didn't know.
Chief Summers.
When DOT was up doing the new crosswalk at the school, we got to talk to them. They are gonna do signs. They're gonna put one right where you come into 130. It's gonna say school zone ahead. About halfway to the school zone light, they're gonna have another sign that says school zone speeding fines double. On the west side, it's gonna be about, the first sign's gonna be about where the fire bay medical center splits there. Then when you come around the corner, they're gonna have the sign right there, school zone, speeding fines double.
Okay, that's all I want to clarify. As long as we're putting people on notice that this is
They're gonna talk to their district supervisor. What they would like to do is those first two, they want to make those the bigger, the 4x4 sign. And then the little one, the regular black and white, to where it's somewhat pretty obvious that you're. The other thing we did find out, somebody mentioned the safety corridor. We are in fact in that safety corridor, so not only could school zone, but any citation on 82, we can actually double that if we decide that's.
But that's where Jim's saying it's speeding only
Right,
in the safety corridor.
right, the speed.
The whole idea is to get them to drive slower and help protect the children.
And just since school started, we're averaging about 1.5 a day in citations in that school zone.
And y'all are there every day?
Right,
You're obvious.
and it's not, I was gonna say, it's not like we're hiding. This afternoon, Justin and I were both sitting right there, and I mean, we could have probably got 2 more while we were busy with the 2 we got.
So,
Do we
Yes,
have
ma'am.
an end of school zone heading west? Do we have a sign?
They're gonna replace it. It actually got knocked down last winter and crashed.
Okay, so I haven't seen it, but it's up now? Right.
They're gonna put it back up. And those are actually supposed to be exactly the same space as the school zone light. So it's gotta be right there where those lights are.
It's not up yet?
It's not up yet.
Okay.
I got knocked down, so we're putting it back up this week.
Okay. Anything else, or a motion?
you want a motion?
Believe so?
I make a motion, we adopt ordinance 392 6-1-2A by title and subject matter, is that how it goes?
And publish notice of adoption by title and general subject matter.
Okay, and publish notice of adoption by subject and title.
Okay, I have a motion on the table to adopt ordinance 3926-1-2A and by title and general subject and publish. By trustee Maynard. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Mitchell. Any further discussion? This will be a roll call vote. Trustee Teeman.
Aye.
Trustee Maynard.
Aye.
Trustee Mitchell.
Aye.
Aye for a unanimous roll call vote with the absence of trustee Smaga. Motion carries. New business. Discussion, action, approval of the Michael Nivison Public Library Internet Safety Policy. We have a presenter. Yes. I'm gonna butcher your last name.
Just think, whoa, Jack.
Wojak.
Whoa.
Whoa, Jack. The library right now does not have tie-in to the New Mexico State Library's E-rate program. And what that is it is a source of funding for libraries. What happened back in the 90s was that public libraries were inundated with the internet, and there was no filters or form of supervision of the internet. So the federal government put in place the Children's Internet Protection Act, which supplied a filtration system for inappropriate accessing of material. And so if you were a public library and you chose to use the filtering system, then you got the E-rate money. This library, our library, has not chosen to participate in E-rate in the past. I have gone through the work of applying for E-rate. I have got a preliminary award of about $25,000 over a five-year time period. The good news is that we're already filtering, and I have been accessing the background of the filtering for about the last 6 months. So I'm very comfortable with what we have in place, and it is appropriate and adequate for the needs of the E-rate program. What I'm asking tonight is to look at this internet safety policy and adopt it, so I can submit it to the E-rate program and we can finalize our award.
Okay. Has everybody had a chance to read the policy?
Melissa does receive a monthly report from IT on what's been blocked, what's been, so that's why she feels definitely comfortable
I do.
in stating that the children can't get to anything.
And by adopting this, we open up funding for your library.
Yes,
Do we have a cost in adopting this?
no
Picking up a-
cost.
No, not picking up a new bill.
No, what will happen is the funding will be awarded to a vendor, and the vendor will come in and give us new equipment, and if the village decides to allow it, we may segment off from all the other village entities' network providers, and E-rate would pick it up. And that's traditionally what happens in a public library, is the library gets their internet and their network connectivity and their support from E-rate. So right now, the library is part of the system of the whole village, and that's part of my budget. What I'm hoping for is that E-rate will provide those funds and we can take them off the village budget.
The internet,
The internet.
what we pay for the internet usage.
Barbara, do you see that might be how it works?
Yes, because basically what would happen is E-rate would pick up providing her internet for free, for the
Yeah,
funding.
From the
And
federal.
so then
From the
that
federal
would,
funding.
yes, that would in turn decrease what we have to pay to provide the library internet.
Yeah, it's something that's really, you jump through a bunch of hoops, but for public libraries, it's pretty common. I've been part of it in other libraries, and it's just something that we really should be taking advantage of because we're doing the work already. We're doing the safety work already.
And you'll still get to see what gets blocked and what doesn't.
I do.
Yes, because we would still stay with the
Cisco
Spectrum, with the
Meraki.
Cisco Meraki and everything. So it would still be, all of our IT structure would be in place. It's just that the internet that we're paying through TBTC now, $80 a month or whatever it is, E-rate funding would pick up that and we could cut that source.
And it's a program that if in future years, we saw that it wasn't working as intended, then we could always opt back out.
Exactly, yes. Yep.
Yeah, I'd make a motion then based on Mrs. Wojak's presentation that we adopt the internet safety policy.
Okay, I have a motion on the table to adopt the internet safety policy by trustee Maynard. Do I have a second? Seconded by trustee Mitchell. Any further discussion? All in favor? Does that have to be roll call? Okay.
Not unless it's an ordinance or a resolution.
Okay, just making sure. All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
Thank you for your hard work.
You bet.
Okay, next is agreement for engineering services for the Pure Water Project Treatment Plant. Completion to renew the current agreement or sole source procurement. Now this one has some more details in it, I believe. Jenny, is this your ball game or is this Barbara's?
Barbara, did you want to speak to it or?
No, you can go ahead and speak to it.
So we have an agreement with Livingston Associates as professional engineering services for the Pure Water Project. The agreement or contract, if you will, expires the 14th day of this September 2021. According to the project manager with New Mexico Environment Department, where our funding comes from, she brought it to my attention that these professional contracts, a contract for professional services may not exceed 4 years. So therefore, to renew the contract, it would need to be procured, and there's two options for the procurement. Either you go out to invitation to, request for proposals for engineer for the project, or you post it as a sole source procurement on the General Services Department, Purchasing Department website, Sunshine Portal, which just stays on there for 30 days. People have the opportunity, if you will, to go onto that website, and people do, and they look at the list of sole source procurements, and if they think they can offer a service or a vendor can offer the goods, then they can do so. So in 2017, the end of 2017, first part of 2017, we dealt with this issue at that time, and we went out to an RFP, and we only received one request for proposals, and that was from Mr. Livingston. And at that time, because we only received one, to make it transparent and in good faith put it out there, we put it on the sole source website, and there were no interest by other parties, if you will, to pick up the contract. We have a contract that is due to expire the end of mid-September, and we need to decide what we want to do about that.
So if you put it on sole source, and Mr. Livingston, I would assume, would state that he wanted to continue, and somebody else wanted to continue, what do we do to decide at that point?
Well, we are the one that will post it, and I have to be honest and say that I don't know that process. I don't know how that works. I don't know.
They would have to contest basically when you put it on the Sunshine Portal, you're stating that you have no other options. it's a sole source, and nobody else can provide this service for us. So if I put that out there and say there's no one else that can provide this service for us, I have to post it for 30 days. You can step in and say, yes, I can provide that service. And then at that point, we would have to go through the process of making a determination, evaluating with evaluators who would be the best awardee.
This project is so complex and gone on for so many years. Make sure I'm clear, do we have an option of just renewing?
No,
Okay, so we either go out for a complete bid, or we declare it sole source and see who shows up.
So it sounds like it's a complete bid either way, it's just the order of which way it's going.
But we could get this done if we do the sole source contract, that immediately after the meeting, we could go forward and get this done before Eddie's contract expires.
and I have to tell you that this would be my first, it's almost contradictory for me to say this is a sole source when I know there are other individuals out there. So I will have to make a contact to the gurus and ask them, you know, do we have to go out first before declaring it sole source?
See, 'cause what I worry
Because there
about.
are other engineers
Yeah, sure.
out there,
And
you know.
good group.
Yeah.
But for them to come in and really say, look, we understand this project where it's at today, and be able to carry us forward. They'd
They're not going,
have a
yeah,
hard time convincing me. Because
yeah.
Yeah, you're starting from scratch in the middle of the project.
we've tracked it all these years, and I can barely understand it. And that is.
Well, maybe that's the problem though, maybe we need some fresh eyes.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's a lot of times where if we take a step back, you get more input. I just, honestly, I don't know about the language as far as sole source. Basically states that you go out to sole source when there are no other options. So I don't get the whole, let's put it on the Sunshine Portal immediately as a sole source when there are other options. I'll have to do some
So I
investigation.
think we'd
work
have
on
to
that.
clarify, how can someone else come in with Eddie's knowledge and understanding of the project? And if the answer is no one really can,
Yeah, so my question
then
is,
that's why it's sole
yeah,
source.
my question is do I have to publish it as an RFP and then do the evaluation, or can I just immediately go to the sole source? From the state project manager, what she told Jenny was that we could just immediately put it on the Sunshine Portal, so.
Well, I think it makes sense because of his working knowledge of where we are and what we need done. And we've just gone through this as to what are the next steps that we need to do to connect it all. We're down to a series that has to be done to get it up and running. And that's a new group is gonna have to go through there. There's gonna be a loss of time. Anytime you get a new employee, you've got a learning curve. I don't see how. Maybe I'm missing something. But
I would just, you know, strongly suggest that no matter what we do, with whatever vendor gets the contract, that we put some stipulations in as to requirements of timelines, before we
wanna get it
lose the
wrapped up.
funding.
We need to get it wrapped up and move on.
Yeah.
There are other things to do. Then we need
I need a decision as to whether we go out to RFP or if we just automatically, if I am able to go directly to the Sunshine Portal with sole source, do that.
I'm still a little behind on there. If we go to Sunshine Portal, and we do have 2 people come in there that want to do it, then do we have to go to RFP?
I do not know.
Or do we just decide on the 2 people that want to do it? Is that,
Sunshine Portal is out there for all of New Mexico, to view.
so any engineer
And
can look
so
at it?
any engineer can look at it. You may come back with 5 of them that are
Yeah.
interested. And then when you talk to them, they go, not getting into that. I can honestly tell you, I do not know.
What kind of money are we looking at to go to RFP that we can save by going sole source? as far as just the money and time of doing all that.
Time is what gets us,
Yeah,
we-
because
we
we're
run-
on a short time.
we feel like it's still summer, but if there's 30 and 60-day increments in these different decisions, we're in October. Some of this work, once we get snow on the ground, we're not gonna do it, we're gonna be in spring next year. And that's where, to me, if our will is to just wrap it up, then it's there's value in whatever is the quickest, most continuous effort in a project of this size and complexity. The value of it, you always trade off time and money.
I think you're gonna get the same response, whether you go RFP or sole source on the Sunshine Portal. If there's anyone interested out there looking for RFPs to
They'll look at
engineer
the sole
this,
source.
they're going to be looking at that Sunshine Portal, and they're gonna make it known that they wanna speak to us
And
about it.
and
And then
utilizing,
you're not going to have wasted the time
using
trying to
that,
draft the RFP
Yes.
and
so
everything.
I think using the portal is a quicker path that
Yes.
doesn't cut off a competitor.
Yes,
And so then if a competitor comes up and they can demonstrate that, yes, they're tuned up, then.
by that time, I'll have figured out what we need to,
So,
what we need to.
Okay,
Go for sunshine then?
I'm waiting for a motion either way.
Can we make a motion then to use are we gonna call it the Sunshine Portal, is that
Yes.
correct? And, if we wish to go sole source contract, then we go the Sunshine Portal. As long as the state doesn't contradict us.
Correct.
There you go.
I have a motion on the table by trustee Maynard to go these,
Figure out that.
I got it.
to put the Pure Roger Treatment Engineering Agreement to sole source on the Sunshine Portal as long as we're covered by the state. Do I have a second?
You have a second.
I have a second by trustee Teeman. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That was easy.
And the attorney didn't correct us at all.
No yelling from the attorney, didn't throw anything at me.
Yeah.
He's saving it up. Okay, the next one. Discussion action. RFP 2021.01, Professional Design Services for James Sewell Ice Rink, Multi-Use Facility, the staff recommendations and evaluators' results.
So this one's mine.
one's
I
yours.
will tell you that we went out to RFP on this, and received 2 respondents. One was ASA Architects, and one was Shelley Hughes Architects. With RFP, we do evaluations of their responses. It was given out to 5 independent evaluators. Both RFPs were given out to 5 different independent evaluators. The average score for ASA Architects was 192.6. The average score for Shelley Hughes Architects was 169.2. So staff and evaluators' recommendations would be to award to ASA Architects, with a meeting to directly follow that award with the architect to determine the scope of work that would be performed prior to work commencing, so that there's a full understanding of the projected funds.
So the architect would be able to give us an
An
estimated price of
estimated
the
price,
entire
yes.
thing. Okay, and that would happen, so we would need to, how long after we award this before we set up that meeting? Would we need to have?
Do it directly.
Okay. All right, there has been a recommendation by the group of evaluators to go with ASA Architects. Do we have a motion? One way or the other? Have a motion from trustee Teeman to go with ASA Architects for the design services of the James Sewell Ice Rink and multiple use facility. Do we have a second?
I'll go ahead and second.
It has been moved and seconded. And any further discussion?
Is that grant money tied up until you get all the monies that are needed for the ice skating rink? That
Yes,
800
right
and
now.
some thousand? Is that money at a standstill until,
We don't receive the money until after it's expended. The village has to expend the money, and then the project manager requests reimbursement from the state. So the state's pretty smart, they keep it in their bank account and earn interest on it. And then we spend our money, and then we request the funds back.
are we spending the money on anything else, or are we waiting for this ice skating rink?
We have spent some of the money that we have dedicated before. Everything else is locked into the multi-use facility, ice skating rink, multi-use facility, until we go through the architects.
And what this will allow us to do is talk to an architectural design firm and determine whether those funds are going to be able to do what we need them to do, or if we need to scale back, or if we need to look at
And
something.
that includes the drainage and everything?
Yes, we're going, yeah,
Not just-
that's why I suggested that.
Okay.
We definitely meet with the architect
Great.
first.
Any further discussion?
Yes, what was the size of that rink? 60 by 100 or 80 by 100?
The current one is 60 by 120, I think. The,
200 by 300?
It was right at double, I believe.
I think the new one's 120 by 230.
120 by 230?
Other
Because
than one.
they just built the footings for a new hangar out at the airport, and this is 60 by 100, and the hangar, complete enclosed, 80,000, the whole job.
Was it government?
No,
That's the problem.
This one's 230 by 136.
That's
230 by 136?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but that is why we are going to an architect, is we should have some hard numbers.
okay.
Okay, it has been,
One more question.
yes,
Is
sir.
there, can you tell us what the cost is to employ the architect services to determine the design?
No,
Not
not until they figure out the cost. It's usually a percentage, but we don't know what that is right now.
Okay.
Now, we can always turn it down.
Yes.
But-
Even after the award to the architect, that's why I'm recommending that we have an immediate follow-up meeting, because she may come in here and say, my percentage is, 20%. That's going to give us a volume amount to determine whether or not we can afford this. And we always have the ability to pull back on that funding and cease it.
Okay. So I have a motion and a second on the table. All in favor?
Aye. Abstain.
Opposed? Motion carries. With 2 ayes and an abstention. Do I need to vote on that one? To make it a quorum?
I
No,
would,
because-
yes, please.
Yes.
Because the abstention is still here. I will say aye. I don't know if I need to vote on that yet. Okay,
It's majority.
so we need to get with ASA and set up a meeting. I would definitely like you in on that with us because you've got the ideas. And we need to see if we can get this within our budget. So, next. Records destruction, 2021.004.
I just have to slide that in there so that we didn't have to have any more special meetings.
I don't want a special meeting to destroy records that we're destroying amongst the legal process of it. But if anybody has any discussion over it, or can give me a motion already, or.
Make that one.
Trustee Teeman makes it a motion to destroy the records according to the state law for 2021.004. Do I have a second? Second by trustee Mitchell. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Bills and treasurer's report. We acknowledge the bills for July 2021, bills and report.
I move we acknowledge.
Have a motion to acknowledge. Do I have a second? I have a second by trustee Keenan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. One last thing on the agenda.
I move we acknowledge.
I have a motion to adjourn by trustee Keenan. Do I have a second?
I'll say.
Sorry, I have a motion by trustee Mitchell. I have a second by trustee Maynard. All in favor? Motion carries at 7:16 PM for August 10th meeting.
Thank you.